Hi here, starting the roll top portion of Mom's desk. So I went and I printed off all the pictures. You know, it's got those big, huge sheets of instructions. So I took pictures of all the sheets, and I'm going to go through this cut list now and cut all the pieces. Well, not all of them, as I learned not to do. I'm gonna cut the ones that I understand and go from there. So I am super excited to get this started. So I cut all of the boards on the cut list, and that's a tad boring to watch, so I'll just chat a little bit here. And yes, it's June, but it wasn't even 60 yesterday. Today is gonna be in the high 60s, but it's been quite a few weeks since I've given you an update on my mom's desk, and that's because I actually took a few weeks off after finishing that bottom, and that was first so I could make a practice project with a tambour door or a roll top door, which was the bread box. And I am so happy that I did that because I learned so much about tambour doors. I also read about a whole bunch of other projects that had tambour doors and saw all the different ways that tambour doors can be made. And I watched a few videos too. So knowing that tambour doors can be made in so many different ways, just like everything else in woodworking, and building that tambour door for the bread box, I feel like I have a little bit of a clue of what I'm doing with this tambour door, and also some problems that could arise, or modifications that I might choose to do. Also, in the last few weeks, I lost my glasses, so I'm using my readers. I worked on a project for a friend, and I did a few Intarsia pieces. So now I am all refreshed, and I'm ready to jump in full guns on this part of the desk. Okay, so here are all the pieces, minus the drawer fronts, because I learned that lesson last time. Hey, so I got this really awesome custom unit from the Corona bonus. So I'm planing all the boards and I'm stacking them on my Husky. So I planed a few minutes, then the planer would die. I would let it sit for a while, then it would go again for a little bit. And that stack on the planer took me all day to plane down to 1/4 inch. But Hub changed out the overload switch and now it runs really well. These tambours have a rabbet on the end, so I routed in the rabbet on the boards that were going to be cut down into the tambour pieces. Then I cut all of them into those tambour strips, and it called for 21 pieces, but I cut about 30. Then I checked them for bows and curves, and a lot of them were not straight enough at all. So I'm really glad I cut all those extras. So now I need to cut 10-degree angles on these because they look like that. Hub showed me how to, kind of guesstimate at it, so we can cut it this way and that way. And anyway, so I'm just gonna try it, see how it goes. Kind of nervous about it, but oh well, whatever. So husband showed me how to tilt the saw to the 10 degrees, and it was a lot easier than I expected. I didn't even have to remove the insert or anything, but 10 degrees isn't a whole lot either. So I tried it one piece first, running it through one side and then the other. Okay, it worked. Look at that. Awesome. Then I continued on with the rest of them. Then sanded them and wore gloves because I'm really tired of slivers. These are the panels for the sides where the tambour slides. I had traced the template onto the board and then cut it out with the scroll saw. Then used that one as a template for the next one. And here they are. Then I used my phone and took pictures of the template on those big plans so I wouldn't have to cut up the plans. Then I used rapid resizer to make it to the correct size and printed a paper template. And I did all of this for the plywood template that will guide the router. So I spray glued that onto my template material and cut that out with the little bandsaw and set it aside until later. The sides where the tambour slides is made up of 4 boards, and one of them is curved. So I actually cut this curved paper template out of those large instruction sheets. I really didn't want to do that, but I couldn't get it right using my phone and rapid resizer. So I figured I'll just have to use the actual template off the instruction sheet. The author of this design has left some wood on the ends of these curved pieces to help with clamping, which I thought was super helpful and great thinking. So I cut the one and then I used it as a template to cut the second one. This time I did some of it with the small bandsaw. Then I asked Hub to help me with the style and rail on these since it looked tricky. I showed him the picture and he said the short piece is the most difficult one, while I thought the curved one would be. So we did all the pieces with the rail bit and then changed to the style bit, and he showed me how you just run the curved wood along the bearing and how it follows the curve. And I put them all together to see how they were fitting, and it looked pretty cool. Next, I was ready to get the tambour door together. So I set out all of the tambour boards and used these boards with a rabbet for the jig. I squared up that right side jig board and screwed it in place. Then placed an extra board in the back and nailed it in place to allow the tambours to snug up next to it. Then I moved all the pieces around and checked them for curves, and a few of them weren't going to cut it. Especially the handle board for the end, which was a little frustrating, so I decided to move on to something else and come back to this later. I went and did some hand sanding on the parts that Hub had routed for me, and that was oddly soothing. Then I dry fit all the pieces together, including the panel. And I also clamped these together, even though I hadn't glued them yet, just to get them acquainted with each other. The next day I was ready to tackle the tambour again. Okay, this piece. See that bow? And it was going towards the door, so I had to remake that piece. So here it is. And this one's nice and straight. So yay. So now I'm going to square up that side and I'm going to screw it in place, and then I'm going to snug this up and get it ready for the cloth. Yeah! Yeah! So I squared up that left side jig and locked it in place with some screws. And this is an extra board, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to snug everything up tight, and the directions want 1/32 of an inch between each of these, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm doing it like this instead. So we'll see if it works or not. I hope it works. I hope it works. Then nailed that bottom extra board in place to hold them. Then I used my Dremel to cut off the nails that were sticking out on that backboard that I put in. I want the tambour cloth to lay flat, so those nails were sticking up, and I couldn't drive them in any further, so the Dremel cut them off nicely. Then I sprayed it off with air and laid the tambour cloth on it. I nailed in the corner of the cloth just to hold it in place. Then cut the cloth to the size needed. Okay, here we go. I have the glue, my roller, and I'm just gonna do it like I did the bread box. I'm just gonna roll. I'm gonna put a few glues down at a time and then pull it back, and I think I'll do it this way. I don't want to glue it to that one because that's our takeaway board. So I put glue on 4 to 5 boards at a time, and I use Tight Bond Quick and Thick because it's thick and it won't flow in between the boards. And it worked really well for the bread box. You don't want to have too much, you don't want to have too little, just like everything. Then put the cloth on and I rolled it all over. Then flipped the cloth back and put glue on a few more boards and did the same thing. I ended up using my hands along with the roller just because the roller is so tiny. Good, I think. Then I placed a large piece of plywood over the top of it, and anything heavy I could put on it, like my spindle sander, this old grinder, my bean bags. Then I remembered my anvils, so I put my small anvil on the side, and I moved some things around to use my large anvil. That'll do, pig. Next, I went back to the stile and rail and panel pieces that I had dry clamped together. I removed the clamps so I could glue them, and I think having them clamped together for a while really helped with reassembling them. They did get used to each other. And I learned from last time not to glue the panels in, so I only added glue to the ends of the stile and rail boards. I checked for square along the way, wiped up the glue, and did the same for the second one. And when they were all dry, I taped them together and sanded them where they weren't twin-like. See that rocking? This is one reason I don't like having these machines on wheel locking casters. I had peeled the template off, so I put it back on so I could trim off those extra pieces that were left on to help with the clamping. I just left the pieces taped together and cut them off at the same time with the little bandsaw. Then sanded that area, first on the belt sander and then on the pneumatic drum. I took the tape off that was holding these two together because next was routering in the slot where the tambour door would slide. I used double-stick carpet tape to attach the template to the piece and then used 3 bench dogs to hold it nice and solid. Then I used a 1/4 inch straight bit and I had it sticking out only about 3/16 of an inch with a bushing, and I pushed the router along the template. And it went smoothly and I was very excited and happy about that. Then I extended it another 3/16 of an inch or so, and it went well again with that pass. I checked the depths, adjusted it a bit more, and then did a 3rd pass. And when I checked it again, it was right on, and a happy dance ensued. Then I took the template off and I turned it upside down to do the other board. I noticed Wally and Gibbs were sitting outside of the door of the shop keeping watch for rabbits and stuff. Then I routed this one the same way, taking 3 passes to get to depth. Now it was time to look at the tambour door. This part is scary. I removed all the heavy stuff. And one of the jigs. Then lifted it up. Look at that. Ah! It's heavy. And it's big. Look at that. Woo! Tambour! Woohoo! Yeah, baby! Yeah, baby! Yeah, baby! Yeah, baby! I removed that bottom board that I had nailed down, then flipped it over to trim any excess cloth. I wanted to try it in the slot, so I put that board on the floor and figured that's the easiest way to try it out. Like this. Okay, it fits. Does it slide? Ooh, it does. Look at that. Whoa, cool. Yeah, okay, whoa. The tambour is so big and heavy, I know I'll need help putting the thing together, but so far it looks like it just may work. So the next step is putting together the pigeonhole unit. And at first I was like, pigeonhole unit? But apparently that's the part that goes inside the tambour door with the little drawers and the shelves and all that stuff. And then adding Rubio monocoat finish to what I can add it to before I assemble it! Ah! So exciting. So thanks for watching me, and I'll see you really soon. Bye!